on, everybody? It's JetsCentral coming back with some breaking NFL news that came out about a half hour to 45 minutes ago. So the Houston Texans are expected to release wide receiver Demaryius Thomas, right? They're expected to. They haven't went out and cut him just yet, but it's looking like they will. And I have to be honest with you, from a Houston Texans standpoint, I understand why they're doing it because number one, you are saving the $8 million against the cap. Number two, you need to get an offensive line in Houston. You can now utilize that $8 million to help get Deshaun Watson and this Texans team an offensive line because that was one of the biggest weaknesses of this team, and you saw it in the playoffs. And then point number three is that Thomas did tear his Achilles tendon in week 16 of last season. That's a major injury. You don't necessarily know how a veteran player is going to bounce back from an injury like that, or of that magnitude, I should say. So from the Texans standpoint, I understand it. I know you just acquired him, but I see the concerns. I see the red flags on why the Texans would want to just part ways with him, get that $8 million back and utilize it in other areas. But I wanted to bring this up, right? And I don't normally do this in my breaking news videos, but I saw, when I read this report, I saw Demaryius Thomas hitting the market, and all of a sudden just dots started connecting. So it begs the question, should the New York Jets go out and try to sign, target, acquire wide receiver Demaryius Thomas? Okay, I look at the New York Jets, the roster. I look at the New York Jets coaching staff. I look at Thomas hitting the market. Where did Thomas play before Houston? Denver. Where was Adam Gase before the Jets in Chicago and Miami? He was in Denver. Okay, there's a connection there. Thomas had a ton of success under Adam Gase. Now, I will say, obviously, he's not the same player. He's older. He's a little bit more injury prone. That's fair to say. And he's coming off a huge injury. So is he going to be that same number one wide receiver that he was back in Denver? Probably not, right? And he was never really up to the level of a Julio Jones and Odell Beckham and AJ Green. He was never up to that caliber anyway, but I think the Jets should be all over this move because he has familiarity with the system, right? He knows Adam Gase. Adam Gase knows what he wants to do. When I look at Adam Gase, look at what he did in Miami. Okay, he brought in veteran pieces. This is what Coach Adam likes to do. He likes the more experienced, the seasoned player without a lot of the baggage, right? A lot of the selfishness, right? That's, I think, one of the reasons why he shipped out Sue and Ajayi and Landry and Pouncey even. I think he likes team players, and that's what Demaryius Thomas is. I mean, you take a look at his career with the Denver Broncos. He racked up yards, catches, touchdowns, but he also was a great teammate. And you know, I know it was tough for the Broncos fans to see him go last season and get traded away because he was just such a dominant, such a fantastic Denver Bronco throughout his whole career. And who knows, maybe he winds up signing back with the Broncos. I don't know. I'm just saying that it must have been tough for the Broncos fans out there. But I'm looking at this situation right now, and I think the Jets should be all over it because I talked about, you know, the Gase-Thomas connection. But number two, the Jets don't really have a really good possession wide receiver. Okay, yes, Robbie Anderson is good, but he's young. Yes, Quincy Enunwa is good, but he's young. Okay, Curse is probably going to be on the bubble. I think Thomas to the Jets makes so much sense because the Gase connection, because the Jets lack a true possession wide receiver, and I think we could get him on the cheap. Okay, with a guy coming off a pretty big injury and the Jets having a ton of money to spend, I think we could get this guy in the locker room and he'd be a great locker room help for not only the young wide receivers and kind of show them the ropes, but he'd also be really good for Sam Darnold. I mean, I look at Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona with Josh Rosen. I mean, those guys are best friends, and Larry Fitzgerald has done so much for Josh Rosen thus far, and it's going to be interesting to see. Well, number one, we have to assume that Rosen's going to be there next season if they don't go ahead and draft Kyler Murray because Cliff Kingsbury, this and that. But I think that just having that connection is huge. A young quarterback with a veteran wide receiver, I just think... And, you know, same could be said, you know, vice versa. I mean, look at Odell Beckham with Eli Manning early on in Beckham's career, right? In 2015, 2014 and stuff like that. There was that connection there because the veteran quarterback knew how to get Beckham the football effectively, okay? So I think it would help Sam Darnold. He has a connection with Coach Adam Gase. We could possibly get him on the cheap. And realistically, he'd be walking into the Jets building, and he'd be the second best to best wide receiver that we have on the team. So I definitely think this is a must. I think it will be a home run. And I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section. Number one, do you like him being released from Houston? And then number two, do you think the Jets should target him? I think we should. I think we should. He'd be a great locker room guy, and I already went through the points, but I think it would be a slam dunk. So let me know your thoughts down below, and as always, go Jets.